Hello, and welcome back to Sleepy Nature Facts. Tonight, we're going on a peaceful journey through 100 of the quietest, most soothing natural phenomena our planet has to offer. These are the gentle processes that happen all around us, often without us noticing. The slow transformations, the patient cycles, the whispers of the earth. Get comfortable, adjust your pillows, let your breathing slow, and allow these soft facts about our beautiful planet to carry you into a deep and restful sleep. Let's begin. Fact 1. The silent growth of stalactites. In caves, deep beneath the surface, stalactites grow downward from the ceiling. They form one drop of mineral-rich water at a time. Each drop leaves behind a tiny trace of calcite. These formations grow so slowly that some take over 100 years to extend just 1 inch. In the darkness, with no one watching, they build their delicate structures in complete silence. The process is remarkably patient. Water seeps through the ground above, dissolving small amounts of limestone as it travels. When this water reaches a cave ceiling, it hangs there for a moment as a droplet. Carbon dioxide escapes from the water into the cave air, and this chemical change causes a tiny amount of calcite to precipitate out. The drop falls, but leaves behind the smallest possible deposit. Drop after drop, year after year, century after century, the stalactite extends downward, reaching toward the cave floor like a stone icicle frozen in time. Fact 2. The gentle drift of continents. The continents beneath our feet are moving right now. They drift across the planet's surface at about the same rate your fingernails grow, just a few centimeters each year. This movement is called continental drift. Over millions of years, entire oceans open and close, mountains rise and fall. But in our lifetimes, this dance happens too slowly to feel. It's one of Earth's most patient processes. The continents float on the mantle, a layer of hot, slowly flowing rock beneath the Earth's crust. Heat from the planet's core creates convection currents in this mantle, and these currents drag the continental plates along with them. North America and Europe are currently moving apart by about an inch each year, widening the Atlantic Ocean. Meanwhile, the Pacific Ocean is slowly shrinking as plates converge along its edges. Australia is drifting northward, heading gradually toward Asia. These movements are so incremental that we need sophisticated GPS measurements to detect them, yet over deep time, they reshape the entire face of the planet. Fact 3. The quiet respiration of soil. Soil breathes. As microorganisms break down organic matter, they consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide, just like we do. This process is called soil respiration. It happens constantly, all over the world, in every garden and forest floor. The earth beneath you is alive and breathing, softly exchanging gases with the atmosphere above. The soil is home to billions of microscopic organisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and countless others. These tiny creatures work tirelessly to decompose fallen leaves, dead roots, and other organic material. As they metabolize this organic matter, they need oxygen, which diffuses into the soil from the air above. In return, they release carbon dioxide, which seeps back up through the soil particles and into the atmosphere. This exchange is invisible and silent, yet it's one of the most important processes on Earth. Soil respiration returns nutrients to the ecosystem and is a crucial part of the global carbon cycle. A single handful of healthy soil contains more living organisms than there are people on Earth, all of them quietly breathing. Fact 4. The slow spiral of galaxies. Our Milky Way galaxy is rotating. The Sun and all its planets are moving through space in a great spiral. It takes our solar system about 230 million years to complete one orbit around the galactic center. We're traveling at roughly 515,000 miles per hour, yet everything feels perfectly still. The universe moves us gently through the cosmos. The stars you see at night are all traveling with us on this cosmic journey. The galaxy rotates like a vast pinwheel, with spiral arms of stars, gas, and dust. Our solar system sits about 2/3 of the way out from the center, in a relatively quiet region between two major spiral arms. The last time we were in this position, in our orbit, dinosaurs had just begun to walk the Earth. The scale is almost impossible to comprehend. We're hurtling through space at incredible speed, yet our perspective makes everything seem motionless. The stars appear fixed in their constellations, even though they're all moving together in this slow, graceful dance around the galaxy's center. Eum. Fact 5. The formation of frost flowers. On very cold, calm mornings, delicate ice structures can form on the surface of lakes or on plant stems. These are called frost flowers. They grow when water vapor freezes directly into ice crystals. The formations look like thin, white petals. They're incredibly fragile and usually melt by midday. For a few quiet hours at dawn, they exist as tiny, frozen sculptures. Frost flowers require specific conditions to form. The air must be much colder than the water or plant surface. Water vapor then moves from the warmer surface to the cold air, where it freezes instantly into delicate ribbons and curls of ice. On lakes, they can form when thin ice covers unfrozen water beneath. Water vapor escapes through cracks and freezes into elaborate structures. On plants, the stems may crack in the cold, pushing out sap and water that freezes into ribbon-like petals wrapped around the stem. Each frost flower is unique, its shape determined by wind, temperature, and humidity. They're so delicate that a breath of warm air or a touch will cause them to collapse. They exist in that liminal time between night and day, visible only to early risers and those who know where to look. Fact 6. The patient life of lichen. Lichen grows on rocks, tree bark, and old walls. It's actually two organisms living together, a fungus and an algae or cyanobacteria. Lichen grows extremely slowly, sometimes less than a millimeter per year. Some lichen colonies are thousands of years old. They survive in harsh conditions, from Arctic tundra to hot deserts, quietly persisting through the centuries. This partnership between fungus and algae is one of nature's most successful collaborations. The fungus provides structure and protection, while the algae or cyanobacteria photosynthesize, creating food for both organisms. Together, they can survive in places where neither could live alone. Lichen can withstand freezing temperatures, intense heat, and long periods without water. They can grow on bare rock, gradually breaking down the stone surface and creating the first soil where other plants can eventually take root. Scientists use lichen growth to estimate the age of rock surfaces, a technique called lichenometry. Some lichen colonies in the Arctic are estimated to be over 8,000 years old, making them older than the pyramids. They grow so slowly that their progress is measured in decades, not seasons, a living testament to the power of patience and cooperation. Fact 7. The deep ocean's gentle snow. In the deep sea, particles constantly drift downward like snow. This is called marine snow. It consists of dead plankton, fecal matter, and bits of organic material. These particles fall slowly, sometimes taking weeks to reach the ocean floor. This silent snowfall feeds creatures in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. Marine snow is the primary way energy from the sunlit surface reaches the deep ocean. In the upper layers of the ocean, tiny plants called phytoplankton capture sunlight and grow. When these organisms die, or when animals produce waste, the particles begin their slow descent. As they fall, they clump together, forming larger aggregates that look like small snowflakes drifting through dark water. These aggregates provide food for countless creatures at different depths. Some animals spend their entire lives in the deep ocean, waiting for this gentle rain of nutrients. Without marine snow, the deep ocean would be almost lifeless. The particles fall so slowly and steadily that it's like a constant, invisible connection between the bright surface and the black depths, a quiet transfer of energy through thousands of feet of water. Fact 8. The expansion of tree rings. Every year, trees add a new ring of growth beneath their bark. In spring and summer, when growth is fast, the wood is lighter. In fall and winter, growth slows and the wood is darker. These rings tell the story of the tree's life. Scientists can read them like pages in a book. Each ring forms quietly, a memory of the seasons written in wood. The width and density of tree rings reveal the conditions of each growing season. A wide ring indicates a year with plenty of water and favorable growing conditions. A narrow ring suggests drought or stress. Scientists, called dendrochronologists, study these patterns to learn about past climates, going back hundreds or even thousands of years. Some trees, like bristlecone pines, can live for over 5,000 years, carrying within them a record of ancient weather patterns. The rings also show evidence of forest fires, insect infestations, and other disturbances. In this way, each tree becomes a silent witness to history, recording the passage of time in concentric circles of wood. The tree doesn't know it's keeping this record. It's simply responding to the world around it, year after patient year. Fact 9. The movement of groundwater. Beneath the surface, water moves through soil and rock in underground rivers and aquifers. This groundwater flows very slowly, sometimes only a few meters per year. It has been filtered through layers of earth and can be thousands of years old by the time it reaches a well or spring. This ancient water flows in darkness, patient and hidden. Groundwater accounts for nearly all of Earth's fresh water that isn't frozen in ice. It fills the spaces between grains of sand and soil and flows through cracks and cavities in rock. The speed of flow depends on how porous and permeable the rock is. Water moves quickly through gravel and fractured limestone, but creeps through clay at barely perceptible rates. Some groundwater began as rain that fell during the last ice age over 10,000 years ago. It has been traveling underground ever since, filtered through countless layers of sediment. When this ancient water emerges at a spring or is drawn from a well, it's remarkably pure, cleaned by its long journey through the earth. The water cycle we usually think about, rain, rivers, and evaporation, is just the visible part. Most of Earth's water cycle happens in darkness, flowing slowly through the hidden aquifers beneath our feet. Fact 10. The greening of deserts. After rain. Some desert regions can go years without rain, but when it finally comes, the landscape transforms. Seeds that have been dormant for years suddenly germinate. Within days, the desert blooms with wildflowers. This phenomenon is called a superbloom. The desert reveals its hidden life, quietly waiting beneath the sand for the perfect moment. Desert plants have evolved remarkable survival strategies. Many produce seeds with extremely hard coats that can remain viable for decades, waiting in the soil for enough rain to trigger germination. These seeds contain specialized chemicals that only wash away after substantial rainfall, ensuring the plant doesn't waste energy sprouting after a brief shower that won't sustain it. When the right conditions finally arrive, the response is dramatic. Carpets of wildflowers, poppies, lupines, desert sunflowers cover the previously barren landscape in waves of color. The timing must be perfect. Enough rain, the right temperature, and the correct season. Some desert residents live their entire lives without seeing a super bloom, but the seeds are always there, patient and waiting, ready to paint the desert in brilliant colors when the moment is right. After a few short weeks, the flowers set seed and die, and the desert returns to its quiet brown. But beneath the surface, a new generation of seeds has begun its patient wait. Arthi, Fact 11. The gentle tides of landlocked lakes. Even lakes that are far from the ocean experience tiny tides caused by the gravitational pull of the moon. These tides are much smaller than ocean tides, often just a few centimeters, but they're there, a subtle rhythm that connects even the most isolated waters to the cycles of the moon. The same gravitational forces that create ocean tides affect all water on Earth, including landlocked lakes. The moon's gravity pulls on the water, creating a bulge. In oceans, this effect is amplified because water can flow across vast distances. In lakes, the effect is constrained by the shoreline, resulting in much smaller tides. Lake Superior, for example, experiences tides of only about 4 centimeters. These tiny movements are usually masked by wind-driven waves and changes in atmospheric pressure, making them difficult to detect without precise instruments. Yet they're always there, a whisper of the moon's influence, a connection between a mountain lake and the cosmic dance of celestial bodies. Even water, trapped far inland, rises and falls ever so slightly, responding to forces millions of miles away. Factor 12. The formation of dew. In the early morning, tiny droplets of water appear on grass, leaves, and spider webs. This is dew. It forms when water vapor in the air cools and condenses on surfaces. Dew can provide moisture to plants and small creatures in dry climates. It appears silently in the night and vanishes in the warmth of the sun. Dew formation is a nightly miracle that goes largely unnoticed. As the sun sets, surfaces like grass blades and leaves begin to cool, losing the heat they absorbed during the day. As they cool below the dew point, the temperature at which air can no longer hold all its moisture, water vapor from the surrounding air condenses directly onto these surfaces. Each droplet forms molecule by molecule, growing until it's visible to the naked eye. In deserts and arid regions, dew can be a crucial source of water for small animals, insects, and even some plants. Certain beetles in the Namib Desert have evolved to collect dew on their backs and channel it to their mouths. By morning, everything is draped in tiny jewels of water, sparkling in the first light. But as soon as the sun's warmth returns, the dew evaporates back into the air, and the cycle begins again. Fact 13. The migration of sand dunes. Sand dunes slowly travel across deserts. Wind picks up grains of sand from one side of the dune and deposits them on the other. Over time, the entire dune moves. Some dunes can migrate several meters per year. They reshape the landscape as they go, creating ever-changing patterns in the sand. This process, called dune migration, is one of the most visible examples of wind's power to reshape the land. On the windward side of a dune, the side facing the wind, sand grains are picked up and carried up the gentle slope. When they reach the crest, they tumble down the steeper leeward side. Grain by grain, the dune literally walks across the desert. In some regions, migrating dunes can threaten roads, buildings, and farmland, but in most places, they simply wander through empty desert, their movement tracked only by time-lapse photography and patient observers. The shapes of dunes, crescents, stars, linear ridges, depend on wind direction and sand supply. Some dunes sing or boom as avalanches of sand cascade down their faces, creating low-frequency sounds that can be heard for miles. The desert is never truly still. It's always moving, always reshaping itself, one grain at a time. Fact 14. The quiet glow of bioluminescent fungi. In some forests, certain mushrooms glow faintly in the dark. This bioluminescence is caused by a chemical reaction within the fungus. The light is usually a soft green or blue. Scientists believe it may attract insects that help spread the fungus's spores. On dark nights in the forest, these mushrooms create a gentle, natural nightlight. About 80 species of fungi are known to produce light, though there may be more waiting to be discovered. The glow is produced by a reaction between a light-emitting molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase. Similar to the reaction in fireflies, the light is usually very dim. You need complete darkness to see it, and even then it's often just a faint, ghostly glow. In tropical forests, where some of these species grow, locals have known about them for centuries, calling them ghost fungi or fairy lights. The most common theory for why fungi glow is that the light attracts nocturnal insects, which then carry spores to new locations. But the truth is, scientists still aren't entirely sure. The mushrooms glow continuously through the night, a soft beacon in the dark forest, asking questions we're still trying to answer. Fact 15. The slow fossilization process. When a plant or animal dies and is buried quickly, it may eventually become a fossil. Over millions of years, minerals gradually replace the organic material. The shape and structure are preserved in stone. This transformation happens so slowly that it's measured in geological time. Fossils are messages from the deep past, written in rock. Fossilization is extraordinarily rare. For it to occur, the organism must be buried rapidly, usually by sediment, volcanic ash, or mud, before it can decay or be consumed by scavengers. Over time, more layers accumulate on top, and the pressure increases. Water rich in dissolved minerals seeps through the sediment. These minerals, often silica, calcite, or iron gradually infiltrate the organic material, replacing it molecule by molecule. The original tissue is gone, but its structure remains, now made of stone. The process takes millions of years. What we see in a fossil is not the actual bone or shell or leaf, but a mineral replica, a perfect cast created by nature. Fossils are incredibly precious because they represent the tiny fraction of life that was preserved. For every fossil found, countless organisms lived and died without leaving any trace, their stories lost to time. Fact 16. The whisper of wind through grass. When wind moves through a field of tall grass, it creates waves. The blades bend and sway in unison. The sound is soft, like rustling paper or a distant whisper. This phenomenon has no official name, but it's been noticed and appreciated by people for thousands of years. It's one of nature's most peaceful sounds. There's something deeply calming about watching and listening to wind move through grass. Each blade responds to the pressure of the moving air, bending and releasing in a continuous rhythm. The collective motion creates visible waves that ripple across the field, like water responding to a breeze. The sound depends on the type of grass. Dry grass rustles crisply, while green grass makes a softer, more fluid sound. This simple interaction between air and plant has inspired poets, musicians, and contemplative people throughout history. In prairies and savannas, where grass stretches to the horizon, the wind creates ever-shifting patterns of light and shadow as the blades catch and release the sun. It's a reminder that the air around us is always moving, always there, made visible and audible by the grass that bends before it. Fact 17. The formation of cave pearls. In some caves, small round stones form in pools of water. These are called cave pearls. They form when water drips onto a grain of sand or small pebble. Over time, layers of calcite build up around the core, creating a smooth, round shape. They can take hundreds of years to form, growing slowly in the quiet darkness. Cave pearls require very specific conditions. There must be a source of dripping water, carrying dissolved calcite, and the core, usually a grain of sand or tiny fragment of rock, must be kept in motion to ensure even coating on all sides. The gentle agitation from dripping water or subtle water movements keeps the pearl rolling slightly, preventing it from becoming cemented to the cave floor. Layer by microscopically thin layer, the pearl grows. Some cave pearls are tiny, barely larger than the original grain of sand. Others can grow to the size of a golf ball, or even larger. They're usually white or cream-colored, smooth, and lustrous. Unlike oyster pearls, which are organic, cave pearls are entirely mineral. They form in complete darkness, in still pools, where water has dripped for centuries, each drop adding an infinitesimal amount of stone to the growing sphere. Fact 18. The daily movement of leaves. Many plants move their leaves throughout the day to follow the sun. This process is called heliotropism. Sunflowers are famous for this, but many other plants do it too. The movement is so slow you can't see it happening, but if you watch over several hours, you'll notice the change. Plants quietly reaching for light. This sun tracking behavior serves an important purpose. It maximizes the amount of light the plant can capture for photosynthesis. Special cells at the base of the leaf stem, called pulvinous cells, control the movement. These cells change their internal water pressure in response to light, causing the stem to bend. Young sunflowers track the sun from east to west during the day, then reorient to the east overnight. Interestingly, once the sunflower matures and blooms, it stops tracking and faces permanently east. This eastward orientation helps the flower warm up quickly in the morning sun, which attracts more pollinators. Many other plants, including beans, soybeans, and cotton, also track the sun to varying degrees. The movement is driven by growth hormones called auxins, which migrate to the shaded side of the stem, causing those cells to grow longer and the stem to bend toward the light. It's a continuous, subtle dance, the plant always seeking the best angle to catch the sun's rays. Fact 19. The subsidence of land. In some areas, the ground slowly sinks over time. This is called subsidence. It can happen when groundwater is removed or when organic soils decompose. Cities like Venice and New Orleans experience gradual subsidence. The land settles millimeter by millimeter, year after year, a slow transformation, usually imperceptible to those living on it. Land subsidence is a quiet crisis in many parts of the world. When groundwater is pumped out for drinking water or irrigation, the spaces between soil particles that were once filled with water collapse under the weight of the overlying soil and rock. The surface sinks. In some places, like California's Central Valley, the land has subsided more than 28 feet in the past century due to extensive groundwater pumping. Venice is sinking partly due to the compression of sediments beneath the city, exacerbated by groundwater extraction in the past. The process is so gradual that it's measured with precise GPS instruments and satellite radar. Buildings develop cracks, flood risk increases, underground pipes break. Yet for the people living there, day-to-day life seems unchanged. It's only when measured over years or decades that the full extent becomes clear. The earth beneath cities is not as solid as it seems. It can compress, settle, and sink, responding slowly to the changes we make above. Fact 20. The growth of coral reefs. Coral reefs are built by tiny animals called coral polyps. Each polyp secretes calcium carbonate, which hardens into a skeleton. Over thousands of years, these skeletons accumulate and form massive reef structures. Coral reefs grow very slowly, some only a few centimeters per year. They are ancient, patient architects of the ocean. A coral polyp is a simple animal related to jellyfish and sea anemones. It's soft-bodied, but it creates a hard limestone cup around itself for protection. Within the polyp's tissues live microscopic algae called zooxanthellae, which photosynthesize and provide the coral with energy. This partnership allows coral to thrive in nutrient-poor tropical waters. When a polyp divides, it creates a new polyp right next to it, and this new polyp creates its own limestone skeleton. Over time, thousands or millions of polyps build upon the skeletons of their predecessors, creating the massive three-dimensional structures we call reefs. The Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system on Earth, has been forming for over 20,000 years. Some individual coral colonies are hundreds of years old. Coral reefs grow slowly because building limestone skeletons requires a lot of energy. They're also fragile. Rising ocean temperatures cause coral bleaching, where the symbiotic algae are expelled and the coral turns white. Without their algae partners, the corals often die. These ancient structures, built over millennia, can be destroyed in a single season of extreme heat. Fact 21. The movement of glaciers. Glaciers are rivers of ice. They flow downhill, pulled by gravity. Most glaciers move very slowly, just a few centimeters per day. Some faster glaciers can move several meters per day. As they move, they carve valleys and shape mountains. The ice flows like very thick honey, gradually reshaping the landscape beneath it. Glaciers form in places where more snow falls in winter than melts in summer. Year after year, the snow accumulates, compressing lower layers into solid ice. When the ice becomes thick enough, usually at least 130 feet, it begins to deform under its own weight and flow downhill. The movement occurs through two mechanisms. The ice crystals slide past each other internally, and the base of the glacier may slide over the bedrock, lubricated by meltwater. The speed depends on many factors: the ice thickness, the slope, the temperature, and the amount of meltwater at the base. As glaciers move, they act like massive bulldozers, plucking rocks from the bedrock, grinding the valley floor, and depositing sediment. The U-shaped valleys we see in mountainous regions were carved by glaciers over thousands of years. Glaciers also create distinctive features like moraines, drumlins, and kettle lakes. The ice might look static and frozen, but it's in constant motion, flowing, grinding, and sculpting the land with patient, unstoppable force. Fact 22. The phenomenon of circumhorizontal arcs. Sometimes, high in the sky, a rainbow-colored arc appears parallel to the horizon. This is called a circumhorizontal arc, or a fire rainbow. It occurs when sunlight passes through ice crystals in cirrus clouds at just the right angle. The colors are soft and pastel. The arc can stretch across the sky, a gentle band of color floating overhead. Despite the nickname fire rainbow, this phenomenon has nothing to do with fire or rainbows. It requires very specific conditions. The sun must be higher than 58 degrees above the horizon, and there must be cirrus clouds containing flat, plate-shaped ice crystals aligned horizontally. When sunlight enters through the vertical side face of these ice crystals and exits through the bottom face, it separates into colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and violet. The result is a horizontal band of pastel color that can span huge distances across the sky. Unlike regular rainbows, circumhorizontal arcs appear parallel to the horizon, not arcing across it. They're most common in mid-latitudes during summer months when the sun gets high enough in the sky. The display is ethereal and dreamlike, a subtle reminder of the ice crystals floating miles above us, transforming sunlight into gentle color. Fact 23. The formation of peat. In wetlands, plant material accumulates faster than it decomposes. Over centuries, this organic material compresses into peat. Peat bogs can be thousands of years old. They preserve pollen, seeds, and even ancient human artifacts. Peat forms slowly, layer by layer, a record of the plants that grew in that place throughout history. Fact 24. The quiet life of deep-sea glass sponges. In the deep ocean, glass sponges build delicate skeletons made of silica. These structures look like intricate lacework. Some glass sponge colonies are over 10,000 years old, making them among the oldest living things on Earth. They filter water slowly, feeding on bacteria and organic particles in the cold, dark depths. Fact 25. The daily cycle of stomata. Plants have tiny pores on their leaves called stomata. These open during the day to take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. At night, they close to conserve water. This opening and closing happens every day, a quiet rhythm that helps plants breathe. It's one of the most fundamental processes of life on Earth. Fact 26. The formation of desert varnish. In deserts, rocks sometimes develop a dark, shiny coating called desert varnish. This thin layer is made of clay minerals, iron, and manganese. It forms over thousands of years as wind-blown dust settles on the rock and combines with water and bacteria. The varnish creates beautiful patterns and has been used by ancient peoples for rock art. Fact 27. The persistence of tardigrades. Tardigrades, also called water bears, are microscopic animals that can survive almost anything. They can withstand extreme heat, freezing cold, radiation, and even the vacuum of space. When conditions are bad, they enter a state called cryptobiosis, essentially pausing their metabolism. They can remain in this state for decades, waiting patiently for better times. Fact 28. The seasonal color change of Arctic foxes. Arctic foxes have two coats throughout the year. In winter, their fur is white to blend with the snow. In summer, it turns brown or gray to match the tundra. This change happens gradually as the seasons shift. The fox doesn't decide to change. It happens naturally, a quiet adaptation to the changing landscape. Fact 29. The movement of tree sap. Inside trees, sap moves up from the roots to the leaves. This happens through a network of tiny tubes called xylem. Water is pulled upward by evaporation from the leaves, a process called transpiration. The sap flows slowly and steadily, carrying water and nutrients throughout the tree. It's the tree's circulatory system, working silently, day and night. Fact 30. The formation of moonbows. A moonbow is a rainbow created by moonlight instead of sunlight. They're much rarer than regular rainbows and appear mostly at night near waterfalls or after rain when the moon is full. Moonbows are usually faint and appear almost white to the human eye. Though cameras can capture their subtle colors, they're rainbows whispered by the moon. Fact 31. The slow weathering of rock. Rocks slowly break down over time through a process called weathering. Water seeps into cracks, freezes, and expands, breaking the rock apart. Roots grow into crevices and widen them. Even the air can chemically alter rock surfaces. This process takes thousands or millions of years. Mountains gradually become hills, and hills become plains. Fact 32. The hidden life of mycorrhizal networks. Beneath the forest floor, fungi form partnerships with tree roots. These networks, called mycorrhizae, connect trees together. Through these fungal threads, trees can share nutrients and even send chemical signals to one another. Some scientists call this the wood wide web. It's an invisible network of communication and cooperation happening beneath our feet. Fact 33. The daily dance of zooplankton. Every day, tiny animals called zooplankton migrate up and down in the ocean. At night, they rise toward the surface to feed. During the day, they sink to deeper, darker waters to hide from predators. This vertical migration happens in oceans all over the world. It's the largest migration of animals on Earth, and it happens every single day, quietly, beneath the waves. Fact 34. The formation of geodes. Geodes are hollow rocks lined with crystals. They form when mineral-rich water fills a cavity in rock. Over thousands of years, minerals crystallize on the inside walls, creating beautiful formations. From the outside, geodes look like ordinary rocks, but inside they hold hidden chambers of sparkling crystals formed in darkness and silence. Fact 35. The slow rotation of the Earth. Earth's rotation is gradually slowing down. This happens because of tidal friction caused by the moon. The slowdown is tiny, about 1.7 milliseconds per century. Millions of years ago, days were shorter. In the distant future, days will be longer. The Earth is winding down like a clock, but so slowly we'll never notice in our lifetimes. Fact 36. The quiet filter, feeding of mussels. Mussels spend their lives attached to rocks or the sea floor, filtering water. A single mussel can filter several liters of water per day, removing algae, bacteria, and particles. They clean the water as they feed. In a healthy mussel bed, the water becomes noticeably clearer. These humble creatures quietly purify their environment. Fact 37. The formation of salt flats. In places where shallow lakes evaporate, salt and minerals are left behind. Over time, these deposits form vast, flat expanses called salt flats. The surface becomes a white crust that can stretch for miles. After rain, a thin layer of water covers the salt, creating a perfect mirror. The landscape becomes sky, and the world seems to double. Fact 38. The life cycle of moss. Moss grows in soft, green carpets on rocks, soil, and tree bark. It doesn't have roots. Instead, it absorbs water directly through its leaves. Moss reproduces by releasing spores, which drift on the wind and settle in new places. Moss grows slowly and quietly, turning hard surfaces into soft green blankets. It thrives in damp, shaded places where other plants struggle. Fact 39. The formation of sinkholes. Sinkholes form when underground rock, usually limestone, slowly dissolves in acidic groundwater. Over time, a cavity forms beneath the surface. Eventually, the ground above collapses, creating a depression or hole. This process usually takes many years. The earth quietly hollows out beneath us until one day the surface gives way. Fact 40. The phenomenon of halos around the sun and moon. Sometimes, a ring of light appears around the sun or moon. This is called a halo. It forms when light passes through ice crystals in high, thin clouds. The ice crystals act like tiny prisms, bending the light into a circle. Halos are a soft reminder that the atmosphere is filled with ice, even on clear days. Fact 41. The growth of barnacles. Barnacles are small crustaceans that cement themselves to rocks, boats, and even whales. Once attached, they never move again. They grow slowly, adding layers to their shell over time. Barnacles feed by extending feathery legs into the water to catch plankton. They live quiet, stationary lives, filtering food from the passing currents. Fact 42. The movement of Earth's magnetic poles. Earth's magnetic North Pole isn't fixed. It wanders. It moves several kilometers each year, driven by changes in the molten iron in the planet's core. Right now, the North Magnetic Pole is drifting from Canada toward Siberia. This movement is tracked by scientists, but for most of us, it goes completely unnoticed. The planet's magnetic field shifts slowly beneath our feet. Fact 43. The formation of river deltas. When a river flows into an ocean or lake, it slows down and deposits the sediment it's been carrying. Over time, this sediment builds up, forming a delta. The river splits into many smaller channels as it crosses the delta. The shape of a delta changes constantly, but slowly, as new land is built grain by grain. It's geography in the making. Fact 44. The quiet predation of sundew plants. Sundew plants are carnivorous. Their leaves are covered in sticky, glistening droplets that look like dew. When an insect lands on the leaf, it gets stuck. The leaf slowly curls around the insect, and enzymes digest it over several days. The plant absorbs the nutrients. This predation happens in slow motion, a patient trap set by a seemingly delicate plant. Fact 45. The formation of clouds at night. Clouds don't stop forming when the sun goes down. At night, the earth continues to release moisture into the atmosphere. As warm, moist air rises and cools, water vapor condenses into clouds. These nocturnal clouds drift quietly across the sky, invisible unless illuminated by moonlight. The atmosphere never stops moving, even in darkness. Fact 46. The life of bristlecone pines. Bristlecone pines are some of the oldest living trees on Earth. Some individuals are over 5,000 years old. They grow in harsh, high-altitude environments where few other plants survive. Their growth is incredibly slow. Some add less than an inch to their diameter per century. These ancient trees have witnessed millennia of history, standing silent on remote mountainsides. Fact 47. The expansion and contraction of metal. Metal expands when it's heated and contracts when it cools. This is why bridges have expansion joints and why metal roofs sometimes make popping sounds on hot days. The change is small, but constant. Throughout the day and night, as temperatures shift, metal structures quietly expand and contract, breathing with the temperature. Fact 48. The formation of spider webs at dawn. Many spiders build new webs each night. They spin silk from glands in their abdomen, creating intricate patterns. By dawn, the web is complete. Dew collects on the silk threads, making them visible in the early morning light. Each web is a work of engineering, built in darkness and revealed by the sun. By evening, many spiders will eat the old web and start again. Fact 49. The slow accumulation of dust. Dust settles on surfaces constantly. Much of household dust is made of dead skin cells, fabric fibers, and particles from outside. In nature, dust accumulates on leaves, rocks, and soil. Over time, layers of dust can build up, creating sediment. In ice cores from Antarctica, scientists have found dust from ancient volcanic eruptions and meteor impacts, preserved for thousands of years. Fact 50. The movement of tectonic plates at mid-ocean ridges. At the bottom of the ocean, along mid-ocean ridges, tectonic plates are slowly pulling apart. Magma rises from the mantle to fill the gap, creating new oceanic crust. This process is called seafloor spreading. It happens at a rate of a few centimeters per year. The ocean floor is constantly being created and destroyed, a slow recycling of the planet's surface. Fact 51. The silent bloom of night-flowering cacti. Some cacti bloom only at night. Their large white flowers open after sunset and close by morning. These flowers are often pollinated by moths and bats. The blooms are fragrant and beautiful, but they exist for just one night. By dawn, they wither. It's a brief, quiet performance under the stars. Fact 52. The formation of ice crystals on windows. On very cold mornings, intricate patterns of ice can form on window panes. These are called Frost or ice crystals. They form when water vapor in the air touches the cold glass and freezes directly into ice. The patterns are unique every time: feathers, ferns, and stars. They're nature's temporary art, erased by the warmth of the sun. Fact 53. The slow drift of icebergs. Icebergs break off from glaciers and drift into the ocean. They're carried by currents and wind. Most of an iceberg is underwater. Only about 10% is visible above the surface. Icebergs can drift for years, slowly melting as they move into warmer waters. They're silent travelers, journeying across the ocean until they finally dissolve into the sea. Fact 54. The daily vertical migration of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are microscopic plants that drift in the ocean. Some species move up and down in the water column throughout the day. They rise toward the surface to photosynthesize in sunlight, then sink at night. This movement helps them avoid predators and access nutrients. Trillions of these tiny organisms rise and fall every day, quietly maintaining the ocean's food web. Fact 55. The formation of natural arches. Natural stone arches form through erosion. Water, wind, and ice slowly wear away softer rock, leaving behind harder layers. Over thousands of years, an arch takes shape. These formations are found in deserts, coastal cliffs, and mountains. Each arch is temporary. Eventually, it too will erode and collapse. They're sculptures created by time and weather. Fact 56. The nightly closure of flower petals. Many flowers close their petals at night and reopen in the morning. This behavior is called nectanasty. It may protect the flower's reproductive parts from cold or nocturnal herbivores. Some flowers, like tulips and crocuses, respond to temperature and light. The petals fold gently inward as the sun sets, then unfurl again at dawn. It's a daily rhythm, repeated throughout the flower's life. Fact 57. The formation of permafrost. In very cold regions, the ground stays frozen year-round. This permanently frozen soil is called permafrost. It can be hundreds of meters thick in some places. Permafrost has existed for thousands of years, locking away organic matter and ancient ice. Recently, warming temperatures have caused some permafrost to thaw, releasing carbon that's been frozen for millennia. Fact 58. The slow erosion of coastlines. Coastlines are constantly changing. Waves, tides, and storms gradually wear away cliffs and beaches. Sediment is carried away and deposited elsewhere. Over centuries, entire sections of coast can disappear or be reshaped. The ocean is a patient sculptor, carving new features into the land with every wave. Fact 59. The phenomenon of bioluminescent waves. In some parts of the ocean, waves glow blue at night. This happens when tiny organisms called dinoflagellates emit light when disturbed. As waves crash or boats move through the water, the organisms light up. The result is a glowing, ethereal blue. It's called bioluminescent bioluminescence, and it turns the ocean into a sea of stars. Lore. Fact 60. The life of deep sea tube worms. Near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, giant tube worms thrive. They can grow up to 8 feet long. These worms have no mouth or digestive system. Instead, they host bacteria inside their bodies. The bacteria convert chemicals from the vent into energy, which feeds the worm. These creatures live in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, deep in the ocean, where sunlight never reaches. Misaber. Fact 61. The formation of hoodoos. Hoodoos are tall, thin spires of rock that form in dry regions. They're created by erosion. Softer rock wears away faster than harder rock, leaving behind these unusual pillars. Some hoodoos have a cap of harder rock on top, which protects the softer rock below. Over time, even hoodoos erode away. They're temporary towers, shaped by wind and water. Fact 62. The slow decomposition of leaves. When leaves fall from trees, they begin to decompose. Fungi, bacteria, and insects break down the organic matter. This process releases nutrients back into the soil, where they can be used by plants. Decomposition can take months to years, depending on conditions. The forest floor is constantly recycling, turning old leaves into new growth. Fact 63. The movement of sand by wind. Wind picks up grains of sand and carries them across the landscape. This process is called saltation. The grains bounce along the ground, hitting other grains and setting them in motion. Over time, wind can move vast amounts of sand, creating dunes and reshaping deserts. It's a slow, continuous process, grain by grain. Fact 64. The formation of ice caves. In glaciers and ice sheets, meltwater can carve tunnels and chambers. These are called ice caves. The walls are smooth and blue, created by compressed ice. Ice caves change shape as the ice melts and refreezes. They're beautiful and fragile, existing only as long as the glacier itself. Inside, the world glows with a soft blue light. Fact 65. The slow growth of pearls. Pearls form inside oysters and other mollusks when an irritant, like a grain of sand, gets inside the shell. The animal coats it with layers of nacre, the same material that lines the inside of the shell. Over several years, the nacre builds up, creating a pearl. Each layer is added slowly, a response to a tiny annoyance turned into something beautiful. Fact 66. The daily bloom cycle of water lilies. Water lilies open their flowers in the morning and close them at night. The flowers follow the sun, opening wider as the day progresses. This cycle repeats for several days until the flower is pollinated. Then the flower closes for the last time and sinks below the water where seeds develop. It's a gentle, rhythmic dance between plant and sunlight. Fact 67. The formation of natural springs. Springs form when groundwater reaches the surface. Water flows out of the ground, often forming a pool or stream. The water has been filtered through layers of rock and soil and can be very pure. Some springs are warm, heated by geothermal energy. Springs have provided drinking water for humans and animals throughout history. They're quiet sources of life. Fact 68. The patient growth of stromatolites. Stromatolites are layered structures created by cyanobacteria. These microorganisms trap sediment and precipitate minerals, building up layers over time. Stromatolites are among the oldest evidence of life on Earth. Some fossils are over 3 billion years old. Living stromatolites still exist in a few places today. They grow extremely slowly, just a few millimeters per year, creating living links to Earth's ancient past. Fact 69. The phenomenon of sundogs. Sundogs, or parhelia, are bright spots that appear on either side of the sun. They're caused by sunlight refracting through ice crystals in the atmosphere. Sundogs are most common when the sun is low on the horizon. They create the illusion of two extra suns flanking the real one. The light is soft and often tinged with color, a gentle optical phenomenon. Fact 70. The formation of river meanders. Rivers rarely flow in straight lines. Water moves faster on the outside of a curve, eroding the bank. On the inside of the curve, water moves slower and deposits sediment. Over time, this creates bends, called meanders. The river slowly shifts its path across the landscape. Eventually, a meander can become so curved that the river cuts through, leaving behind an oxbow lake. Fact 71. The slow creep of soil. On slopes, soil slowly moves downhill under the influence of gravity. This process is called soil creep. It's usually too slow to see, but over decades, fence posts tilt and trees bend downslope. Freeze-thaw cycles, wetting and drying, and the activity of burrowing animals all contribute. The hillside is gradually flowing like a very thick liquid. Fact 72. The life of cryptobiotic soil crusts. In deserts, a living crust forms on the soil surface. It's made of cyanobacteria, lichens, mosses, and fungi. This crust stabilizes the soil, preventing erosion. It also captures nitrogen from the air, enriching the soil. The crust grows very slowly and is easily damaged by footsteps. It can take decades to recover. This fragile layer is essential to desert ecosystems. Fact 73. The formation of lava tubes. When lava flows from a volcano, the surface can cool and harden, while molten lava continues to flow beneath. When the eruption ends, the lava drains away, leaving behind a tunnel called a lava tube. These tubes can be kilometers long. Inside, the walls are smooth and sometimes glassy. Lava tubes are quiet reminders of ancient volcanic activity. Fact 74. The slow advance of tree lines. In mountains and polar regions, there's a point above or beyond which trees can't grow. This is called the tree line. As climate changes, tree lines can shift. Trees slowly colonize new areas or retreat from others. Seedlings establish themselves gradually, millimeter by millimeter, the forest expanding or contracting over generations in response to temperature and moisture. Fact 75. The phenomenon of virga. Virga is precipitation that falls from clouds but evaporates before reaching the ground. It appears as streaks or wisps hanging beneath a cloud. Virga is common in dry climates, where the air near the surface is very dry. It's rain that never arrives, a promise of moisture that dissolves into the atmosphere. The phenomenon creates beautiful, ghostly curtains in the sky. Fact 76. The formation of tide pools. When the tide goes out, pools of seawater are left behind in rocky depressions. These are called tide pools. They're miniature ecosystems, home to anemones, starfish, crabs, and small fish. The animals and plants in tide pools must survive extreme changes. They're submerged at high tide and exposed to air, sun, and temperature changes at low tide. Life persists in these small, temporary worlds. Fact 77. The growth of antlers. Deer, elk, and moose grow new antlers every year. Antlers are made of bone and grow from small buds on the skull. During the growth period, they're covered in a soft tissue called velvet, which supplies blood and nutrients. Antlers can grow several centimeters per day, making them one of the fastest growing tissues in the animal kingdom. Once fully grown, the velvet is shed and the antlers harden. Fact 78. The slow process of petrification. Petrification is a type of fossilization where organic material is replaced by minerals. When a tree falls into water rich in dissolved minerals, those minerals gradually infiltrate the wood. Over millions of years, the wood is replaced cell by cell with stone. The result is a fossil that retains the original structure of the tree, but is made entirely of rock, its wood turned to stone, preserving ancient forests in mineral form. Fact 79. The formation of salt crystals. When salt water evaporates, the dissolved salt is left behind. As the water disappears, the salt molecules come together to form crystals. These crystals grow slowly, layer by layer. The shape of the crystal depends on the type of salt and the conditions. In salt flats and dry lakes, you can see these crystals forming naturally, glittering in the sun. Fact 80. The quiet flight of owls. Owls are nearly silent in flight. Their feathers have special adaptations, soft fringes on the edges and a velvety surface that muffle the sound of air passing over their wings. This allows them to approach prey without being heard. An owl can glide through the forest at night, a shadow among shadows, hunting in near total silence. Fact 81. The formation of gypsum flowers. In caves, delicate formations called gypsum flowers can grow on the walls and ceiling. They're made of gypsum crystals that form as water evaporates. The crystals curl and twist into shapes that resemble flowers or ferns. They're incredibly fragile and grow very slowly. Gypsum flowers are one of the most beautiful and delicate formations found in caves. Fact 82. The slow sinking of sediment. In lakes and oceans, tiny particles constantly drift downward. Dead plankton, dust, and organic matter settle to the bottom. This process can take weeks or months. Over geological time, these sediments build up layer upon layer, eventually forming sedimentary rock. The ocean floor is constantly receiving a gentle rain of particles, building the geological record of life. Fact 83. The formation of hoarfrost. Hoarfrost forms when water vapor in the air freezes directly onto surfaces without first becoming liquid. It creates delicate, feathery crystals on grass, branches, and windows. Hoarfrost typically forms on clear, calm nights when temperatures drop below freezing. The crystals catch the morning light beautifully. By midday, they usually melt away, leaving only moisture behind. Fact 84. The movement of earthworms through soil. Earthworms burrow through soil, eating organic matter and creating tunnels. As they move, they aerate the soil and mix nutrients. A single earthworm can process several tons of soil in its lifetime. Their tunnels allow water and air to penetrate deeper into the ground. Darwin spent years studying earthworms and concluded they were among the most important animals for soil health. They work quietly beneath our feet, transforming the earth. Fact 85. The formation of clouds from mountaintops. When moist air rises over a mountain, it cools and condenses into clouds. Sometimes these clouds form right at the peak, creating a cap or banner of cloud that seems to pour from the summit. The cloud stays in place even as wind blows through it, constantly forming on one side and evaporating on the other. It's a stationary cloud in a moving stream of air. Fact 86. The slow oxidation of iron. When iron is exposed to oxygen and moisture, it rusts. This is a slow chemical reaction called oxidation. The iron combines with oxygen to form iron oxide, which has a reddish-brown color. Rust forms layer by layer, gradually consuming the metal. In nature, this process creates the red and orange colors in many rocks and soils. It's the planet slowly breathing oxygen into iron. Fact 87. The life cycle of mayflies. Mayflies spend most of their lives as aquatic nymphs, living underwater for months or even years. But once they emerge as adults, they live for only a day or two. sometimes just a few hours. During this brief time, they mate and lay eggs. They don't even have functioning mouthparts as adults. Their entire adult life is dedicated to reproduction. It's a brief, urgent existence after a long, patient youth. Bori, Fact 88, the formation of natural bridges. Natural bridges form when water erodes rock, creating an arch that spans a gap. Unlike natural arches, which form through general weathering, bridges are specifically carved by flowing water. Over thousands of years, a stream or river cuts through rock, eventually creating a tunnel. When the tunnel breaks through, a bridge remains. These formations are rare and beautiful, testaments to the power of patient water. Fact 89, the slow journey of nutrients in trees. Nutrients absorbed by tree roots must travel all the way up to the leaves, sometimes over 100 feet. This journey happens through the xylem, using a combination of root pressure and evaporation from leaves. The process is continuous but slow. It can take days for water and nutrients to travel from roots to the highest branches. The tree is constantly moving resources, quietly feeding every leaf and branch. Fact 90, the phenomenon of noctilucent clouds. Noctilucent clouds are the highest clouds in Earth's atmosphere, forming about 50 miles above the surface. They're so high that they can catch sunlight even after sunset, glowing softly in the twilight sky. These clouds are made of ice crystals and are most visible during summer at high latitudes. They appear as delicate, silvery blue wisps, visible only in the brief period between day and night. Urdu, Fact 91, the formation of natural wells. Sometimes water collects in natural depressions in rock, creating pools or wells. These can form in limestone, where sinkholes develop, or in areas where rock layers create natural basins. Throughout history, these natural wells have been vital water sources. The water is often clear and cold, filtered through layers of stone. They are quiet gifts from the geology beneath us. Fact 92, the slow spread of fairy rings. In some grasslands and forests, mushrooms grow in expanding circles, called fairy rings. These rings form when a fungus spreads outward from a central point, producing mushrooms at its outer edge. Each year, the ring grows larger, sometimes just a few inches, sometimes several feet. Some fairy rings are hundreds of years old and can be seen from the air. They are the visible sign of an underground organism slowly spreading through the soil. Fact 93, the daily temperature cycle of rocks. Rocks absorb heat during the day and release it at night. In deserts, this daily cycle can be extreme. The rock surface expands when hot and contracts when cool. Over time, this repeated expansion and contraction causes the rock to crack and break apart, a process called a thermal weathering. Even something as solid as stone responds to the rhythm of day and night. Fact 94, the formation of fulgurites. When lightning strikes sand, the intense heat melts the sand into glass. This creates a tube-shaped formation called a fulgurite, or petrified lightning. Fulgurites can be several feet long, following the path the lightning took through the sand. They're hollow and fragile, with a rough exterior and a smooth, glassy interior. Each one is unique, a frozen moment of incredible energy. Fact 95, the quiet photosynthesis of algae. Algae are simple organisms that photosynthesize like plants. They exist in water and moist environments all over the world. Some are microscopic, while others, like kelp, can grow to enormous sizes. Algae produce much of the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere. Some estimates suggest they produce more oxygen than all land plants combined. They work quietly in oceans, lakes, and streams, converting sunlight into life. Fact 96. The movement of molten rock beneath volcanoes. Beneath active volcanoes, magma chambers hold molten rock. This magma slowly rises from deep within the earth. The pressure builds gradually until an eruption occurs, or the magma cools and crystallizes underground. The magma moves through cracks and channels in the rock, driven by heat and pressure. Even when a volcano is quiet, this slow movement continues deep below the surface. Fact 97. The formation of stone stripes. In cold regions, freeze-thaw cycles can sort soil and rocks into patterns. One of these patterns is called stone stripes, lines of stones that run downhill, separated by areas of finer soil. The stones are pushed to the surface and sorted by repeated freezing. Over time, distinct stripes form, visible from above. It's the earth organizing itself through the simple process of freezing and thawing. Fact 98. The life of deep-sea brine pools. On the ocean floor, there are pools of extremely salty water called brine pools. This water is denser than regular seawater, so it stays in depressions, forming underwater lakes. The edges of these pools have distinct boundaries. Fish can swim over them as if they were pools of liquid on dry land. Very few creatures can survive in the brine, but the edges teem with life. These pools have existed for thousands of years, quiet and strange habitats in the deep ocean. Fact 99. The slow crystallization of honey. Honey naturally crystallizes over time. The glucose in honey separates from the water and forms crystals. This doesn't mean the honey has gone bad. It's a natural process. The speed of crystallization depends on the type of honey and how it's stored. Some honey crystallizes in weeks, others take years. You can return crystallized honey to liquid by gently warming it. It's a reminder that even preserved foods are still changing very slowly. Fact 100. The eternal cycle of water. Water moves through the world in a continuous cycle. It evaporates from oceans, lakes, and soil. It rises into the atmosphere and condenses into clouds. It falls as rain or snow. It flows in rivers back to the ocean. It seeps into the ground and is taken up by plants. It's been cycling like this for billions of years. The water you drink today may have fallen as rain on ancient forests, flowed through prehistoric rivers, been frozen in glaciers, or drifted as clouds over lands that no longer exist. Water connects all life across all time, moving patiently through its endless journey. Pause. And there we have it. 100 quiet phenomena of our planet. 100 gentle reminders of the processes that shape our world. The slow transformations, the patient cycles, the whispers of Earth. These phenomena happen all around us, every moment of every day. Most of them go unnoticed, but they're there. The dew forming on grass, the continents drifting, the soil breathing, the trees growing one ring at a time. The planet is alive with quiet activity. Even in stillness, there is movement. Even in silence, there is change. As you drift off to sleep tonight, know that you are part of these cycles. You are connected to the water cycle, to the air, to the soil. Your atoms have been part of stars and stones and ancient oceans. You are made of the same elements that form mountains and rivers. You are not separate from nature. You are nature. Let that thought comfort you. Let it ease you into rest. The earth continues its patient work. The stars continue their slow dance across the sky. And you, safe and comfortable, can let go of your thoughts and drift peacefully into sleep. Thank you for spending this time with Sleepy Nature Facts. I hope these gentle phenomena have helped calm your mind and prepare your body for rest. May your sleep be deep and restorative. May your dreams be peaceful. Good night.